Welcome to Solo Sunday Stories, Episode 2. I want to talk about how to make friends while traveling solo. I'm guessing that people are asking themselves, what do I do if I get lonely? How do I meet people when they're thinking about traveling solo? And honestly, the answer is you will get lonely. But, you don't have to be alone all the time. And this is where I'll discuss how to not be alone all the time and how to make friends. So I just want to preface this that some of my good memories while traveling came from me interacting with people while I was in my destination and just enjoying myself on tours and such, because honestly the human community aspect is the best thing about travel outside of the history and the cultures that you experience, and obviously the food. But human interaction makes the experience just so much more fruitful. So my main point today is to just remind everyone that solo travel, you will feel lonely during that time, but you are able to curate your experience in a manner where you are able to interact with people, fill your days with things, and then potentially make friends along the way if you want to. If you don't want no new friends, that's cool too, but I just want to share, things that I've used while traveling solo for as long as I've been traveling. So I just want to say, making friends does not require you to be extroverted. I am an ambivert, so I am able to flow between, being very social to then being very dialed down and not wanting to be, in the mood or the center of attention. I can move through those moods. And also it depends on the vibes of that travel experience or that destination, or what I want from that trip in particular. So I just want to say, when you travel solo, it makes you a little bit more approachable. And I feel like when you are in awe or curious about a place, it shows on your face. And I feel like that infectious, that behavior is infectious, and people gravitate to tourists, to obviously, if they are very proud of their country, to talk about it. People love yapping about the good things about their countries. And I found that to be the case. When you travel, people will go on and on about the great things about where they live. So there's that. Because when you are solo, you're approachable. But if you're traveling in a group or with friends, you guys are a tight-knit community, and some people don't want to interject in that, so you don't get the same interactions or situations that happen where you can organically get to know people, because people just assume you're with people and they don't want to interrupt that. So there's that. But if you are into group trips, do the group thing. But I feel like you should try the solo aspect of it. But anyway, so I want to just get into where to meet people. So I think three places is what I use. So first, tours. Obviously, you use the tours, and that can be activities, excursions, cooking tours, the whole shebang. You do those. Because you have a built-in conversation starter, because you guys are doing that activity together, so you can converse about what you guys are seeing, what you guys are doing, and then you can actually have a conversation, and it feels a little bit more low pressure. Also, you're likely going to be with this person, if it's a longer tour, for at least a couple of hours. So getting to know the people is a plus during that time. And also, you don't have to have your guard as high, because you are in a tour group, you have a tour guide, and then you also have a driver likely. So you have a lower risk of having to always keep your head on swivel, even though you should, especially if you guys are walking out and about, you should still be aware. But you know, if you're in a closed space or in the van or on the bus, like that gives you a chance to communicate and have conversations with people, because you're not having to worry about someone doing something to you, because you're all on this tour by choice. Second, I would say to utilize like meetups, Eventbrite, and expat communities, and you can find those on different apps, just by way of research. And I feel like when you utilize those tools, you have the options to, of course, do events based on your hobbies, your career, like things you want to learn about a place. Like the options are endless when you're joining groups, and it gives you an opportunity to just see what's happening during the time period that you're going to be there, to join groups, and then you can meet like-minded people, whether or not that's locals, if that's, you know, expats, other travelers. And when you have the situation where you're joining an expat community, you can of course join the communities that are there. And if you are you know, in this community and these people are like traveling digital nomads, you can even make those connections, so that if you are traveling in another time in another place, that you can actually interact with the people that you met in this expat community, even if it was based in one destination. Someone may be traveling somewhere else, and you can meet up at a later time. So you have so many options. The third is co-living spaces. I've been giving co-living spaces a try for my last few vacations, and I feel like it's a shared home, right? A shared space. You have your own room, and usually your own, you know, bathroom and such. And then there's shared spaces. Sometimes there's shared events that they do for just the people that are in that space. So that gives you an opportunity to either talk to people that this is their long-term, you know, plan, that they're working, or they're just, you know, temporarily traveling during this time or whatever. But you have that you're not it's not quite a hotel where everyone's just like circling in and out, but people are actually living there. So you get a community aspect there as well. Bonus for Black people and, you know, other ethnic groups, I would say one thing that I've found while traveling is, I know that not all skin folk are kinfolk, but I realized that we look for each other as Black people in other places. So it might be a look, a smile, you know, just like we're sitting at dinner and we're just chatting like, oh, you live here, and like those types of interactions. And those are just like random interactions. But I feel like if you are, you know, in a space and you see another Black person, sometimes, you know, we'll just naturally gravitate to each other to just like chop it up. And if you're not Black and you know, have that same community type of vibes that we give off, do the same thing. Find your people that look like you, interact with them, chop it up with them, see what they're doing. They might live there long term. They might just be a digital nomad, just traveling through this city, or, you know, or any other number of things. So that's the bonus of the options. And then I would say, in all of that when you are doing this, you're going to curate it, all of these things, in the way that you want to have your trip. Because I feel like vacations are more than just accommodations, your air, and your activities. It's you know, cultural history and people. And I feel like, you know, when you are solo, you can lean in a little bit more to the people aspect of it, because you're by yourself. And people love to yap, and I don't think people realize that. And if you're not a yapper, of course, you know, do what makes you comfortable. But like, it is so easy to just have random conversations with people while traveling. And I think more people should do it, and not just, I know we do it on resorts when we're just like having a vibe type of vacation, but it's also cool to do it while you're solo traveling and you're just like having your mini adventures in this new destination. One story that I have, especially when I early on in my solo travel, experiences, I was in Iceland. I went in January, and I decided to do a food tour. But I'm gonna pause here. If you are someone who doesn't want to have dinner alone, I 100% recommend doing a food tour, because I feel like there's a different type of camaraderie that happens around a dinner table, and I feel like food always brings people together. So I would say use that to have a built-in type of, conversation, or just homey feel, to, just vibe and eat and chat with people. And then you'll be able to go to your accommodations. But besides that, I was in Iceland, and I ended up going on a food tour. It was like a combination, and we were just like going to multiple places, and we were also seeing the sights while we were on this tour. And I just happened to have a conversation with a Black woman that was part of the tour, and we're just having conversations about what she does, what I do, what brings me to Iceland. And I was just like explaining that, I was trying to figure out what to do in January, prior to my birthday being in February. And of course, she's like, oh my God, like, when is your birthday in February? And I tell her, and she's like, I'm an Aquarius too. So now we're clicking, and we have that in common because we're the same sign. So we're just having a ball. We're taking fun pictures. I'll insert one of them here. And after that entire tour, I ended up having more conversations with her, and I ended up exchanging social media, and I still follow her on social to this day, and I still have her contact information. And it is just so fun to be able, she's an older woman, but it's just so fun to be able to have those interactions. And I also had that as recently as this year in Portugal. I was having a tour, another food tour. It was a food and wine tour. If where you go and have food and wine tours, do the food and wine. Because having local wine and food is always the bomb. But I'm in Portugal. We're doing the food and wine tour. We're doing all of that, and I'm just having a time. I'm by myself, so they noticed that. And when we ended the tour and we got off the bus, they stopped me and was like, I think we chatted once during the tour, but once we got off the bus, they chatted again, and then we decided to go to dinner. And it was just like, absolutely, I'll go to dinner with these two women. And they were older women, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go. We do dinner. I'm just having conversations, and I realized, or I learned during that conversation, that the lady, one of the ladies was there. There were two white women. One of the ladies were there to find a property in Portugal. And I was like, that's amazing, because I would love to buy property in another country. And it was just like, she wasn't just there to do tours. That was just like the extra, thing she was doing on the side, but she was there for actual, personal business. And that was dope. And in that conversation, I learned about something called international living. And I feel like I would have never learned about that, because I wasn't, in my research, I don't usually look for organizations like that. But I learned about it, I signed up for it, and I think that was cool, because if I wouldn't have gone to dinner with these two women, I would have never known that it was an international, living group or club or newsletter that helped people find places and spaces in other countries to build a life. And again, I would not have learned that if I did not decide to go to dinner. I could have just said, day's over, I'm going back to my accommodations, we're done. And I said, no, like, I've been doing this long enough that I'm comfortable, going to chop it up with people. And it wasn't like we were going to their hotel or anything, but I've done besides that. I just thought about something that I did that was just like, girl, you shouldn't have went, but it ended up being good. But like, you actually have to have discernment in those situations also. But those are the two things like that stand out for, interactions that you could potentially have while traveling solo. But I just want to also tie in to have discernment, and do things that are safe and comfortable for you, but also to look up the the cultural behaviors and such of the place that you're going to, so that you can be able to navigate those situations in a safe manner. Because something that is faux pas where I live or where you live may not be the same in the destination that you are in. But again, I just want people to do things that are comfortable for you, and not try to, push yourself too far outside of your comfort zone. If a conversation is getting weird, dead it. If the environment that you're in, you're not liking it, leave. Like, you don't have to do more than you want to. And then, especially because you are in a place that is foreign to you, do not put yourself at risk unnecessarily. And I think that's important. Just have that discernment. But also, if you have difficulty saying no to people, or not being able to segue a conversation away from whatever is uncomfortable for you, start practicing that, so that if those situations ever arise, you have an out. Because that's important, because safety and your comfortability is more important than anything else while traveling. So to tie up all the strategies, I would say book group trips. Number one recommendation, do a food tour or even a cooking class, because of course, I swear, food brings people together, man. Food and wine, or alcohol, not too much alcohol. I'm not even gonna, no, I don't condone that. But food and cooking, or tours and activities, excursions, etc. Also utilizing Eventbrite, Meetup, and expat communities, so that you can go to events, talk to people in a space, surrounding something that you're already interested in, so that obviously the conversation is more natural. You don't feel out of place because you're doing something that you already like. Or you can choose to do something outside of that so you can learn something, but you have that option. Also, just to circle back to that, know your boundaries, know what you want to get out of your vacation, and don't stray from it. So, in ending this, I want to let you all know that solo travel does not mean you will be alone all the time, but we do need to acknowledge that you will potentially get lonely, especially if you are on vacation for a longer period of time, and it's not like you have back-to-back activities because you're doing something in a condensed amount of time, or people that are traveling for work, or staying in a place, or deciding to be a digital nomad, which I'm thinking about, and going to be in a place long enough to be alone because you're away from family and friends. We just need to acknowledge that it is going to happen, but I think we need to think about potentially leaning into that loneliness, and when you're in your home base, taking yourself out on dates so that you get more comfortable with being alone, so it doesn't feel like an odd situation, or you don't feel awkward, or you don't feel so sad because you're alone. Because I know it can get real sad when you're not with your family or your friends or your significant other, and you just feel like I'm just here by myself and this is odd. The more you do it, the more you won't feel that, but it will happen from time to time. But also, I think people need to lean into their actual community. Sometimes you need to do a debrief. On vacation, I call my dad or my parents in general, and I give them the whole rundown of what I did that day. I'm sending pictures, they're checking up on me, we're doing whole FaceTime, so I have that face-to-face aspect even though they're not present, and it gives me a little bit more of home and community when I do that. So that's also a suggestion, so you don't feel alone or feel like you have to always go on a trip with someone else. And I feel like you should also mix it up. If you want to do group trips and your friends and family can still get on one accord to actually book a vacation and y'all all go, and you know, you do that, great. And then you still do your solo travel to places that you want to go when everyone doesn't have time. Do that so that you have a balance. I'm someone that at this point I book trips and then I tell people, like, if you want to go, you can join, but I'm still going. And there's that. But figure out your groove. I hope this, you know, helps someone decide on whether or not they want to continue or, you know, potentially go on a solo trip, or give you some strategies to break it up so that you don't have to feel alone. And then you can actually do stuff outside of just the touristy things that everyone's doing. And while I was in Mexico City recently, I was invited to a DJ set, a sunset DJ set that was on Eventbrite, that we were just like talking about, because I was in a co-living space and people were like, oh, this is what's going on Sunday, so like, do you guys want to do that? And that's the stuff. Like, it doesn't always have to be an activity. It can be just you going out to vibe with people in your age group, just vibing to music and drinks and dancing. And the options are endless when it comes to solo travel and what you can do. And I feel like I wanted to share this because I don't think people think about all of the other things you can do outside of just activities, to make your travel experience even more enriched. And yeah, so thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Comment down below any questions that you have or any comments that you want to share. I am going to answer all of those, so please share your thoughts. Next week on episode 3, I'm going to share a scary travel moment. It wasn't a solo travel moment, but it was a scary travel moment that had me questioning whether or not I wanted to continue traveling alone. So I'll share that, and I'll see you guys in episode 3. Thanks for watching. Good night.